What was the exact moment you knew you could never forgive someone? The spare key turned in my front door lock at 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, and I remember thinking how grateful I was that the hospital had sent me home early with a migraine. My head was pounding, my scrubs were wrinkled from a 12-hour shift in the ICU, and all I wanted was to collapse into my own bed for a few hours before my final dress fitting at 5. I kicked off my sneakers in the hallway and padded toward the bedroom in my socks, already reaching behind my neck to untie my ponytail. That's when I heard it, a sound that didn't belong. A low murmur, then a laugh I recognized immediately. My sister Emma's laugh, breathy and musical, coming from behind my closed bedroom door. My hand froze on the doorknob. She wasn't supposed to be here. Emma lived 40 minutes away in downtown Portland, and we'd already confirmed our wedding planning session for Thursday evening. Maybe she'd wanted to surprise me, drop off the favors we'd been assembling, or... The second voice made my blood turn to ice. God, Em, I can't believe we're doing this again. Marcus. My fiancé of 2 years. My partner of 5. The man I was supposed to marry in exactly 14 days. My brain couldn't process what I was hearing. There had to be an explanation. Maybe Emma had called him to help with something. Maybe they were planning a surprise for me, working on the slideshow for the reception, or... Sarah's dress fitting isn't until 5, Emma whispered, and I heard the unmistakable creak of my mattress springs. We have time. The world tilted sideways. I stood frozen in my own hallway, still wearing the scrubs I put on at 6 a.m., listening to my sister and my fiancé in my bed. The migraine that had sent me home early suddenly felt like a blessing and a curse wrapped into one devastating moment. I hate lying to her, Marcus said, but his voice was moving, getting closer to where I knew Emma would be. She's been so stressed about the wedding, and yesterday she was showing me the seating chart again, talking about how perfect everything's going to be. It'll be over soon, Emma replied, and something in her tone made my stomach drop even further. After the wedding, after the honeymoon, we can figure out how to tell her. She'll understand eventually. She has to. My hand was still on the doorknob. Part of me wanted to burst through that door and scream until my throat was raw. Part of me wanted to run. But I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think past the sound of my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. I love you, Marcus whispered, and those 3 words, words he'd said to me just that morning over coffee, shattered something inside my chest that I knew would never heal properly. I love you too, Emma whispered back. I backed away from the door on trembling legs, my socks silent on the hardwood floor. In the kitchen, I gripped the granite countertop until my knuckles went white, staring at the wedding invitation magnet to my refrigerator. Sarah Elizabeth Chen and Marcus James Sullivan request the pleasure of your company. The invitation Emma had helped me design. The wedding Emma was supposed to stand beside me for as my maid of honor. The marriage that was apparently just a temporary inconvenience to them both. That's when I knew I would never forgive either of them. I stayed in that kitchen for what felt like hours but was probably only 20 minutes, listening to the sounds from my bedroom that I'll never be able to unhear. When everything finally went quiet, I heard the shower turn on, my shower, and I knew I had a narrow window. My laptop was still open on the kitchen table from when Marcus and I had been reviewing our honeymoon itinerary over breakfast. Portugal in 3 weeks. The trip we'd been planning for 8 months, talking about Lisbon's cobblestone streets and the beaches of the Algarve. I'd been so excited that morning, showing him the restaurant reservations I'd finally secured. I opened a new browser window with shaking fingers and logged into our joint checking account. The one we'd opened specifically for wedding expenses. The one Emma knew about because she'd helped me transfer money into it just last week. What I found there made me physically sick. 17 transactions I didn't recognize, all within the past 6 months. Charges to restaurants I'd never been to, hotels in Portland when Marcus had supposedly been working late. A jewelry store purchase for $847 on February 14th, Valentine's Day. The day Marcus had told me he had to work a double shift and couldn't celebrate. I'd never received jewelry that day. But apparently, someone had. The shower was still running. I could hear Emma humming, actually humming, some song I didn't recognize. My sister, who'd held my hair back when I had food poisoning last Christmas. Who'd driven 3 hours to be with me when our grandmother died. Who'd cried harder than I did when Marcus proposed because she was so happy for us. I grabbed my phone and started screenshotting everything. The bank statements, the hotel charges, a credit card I'd never seen before that was somehow linked to our account. My hands were steadier now, operating on pure adrenaline and something that felt like ice water in my veins. The water shut off. I closed the laptop and moved to the living room, positioning myself on the couch where I could see the hallway but they couldn't immediately see me. I needed to know how they'd handle this. I needed to see what kind of people they really were. Emma emerged first, wearing one of my bathrobes, her dark hair twisted up in one of my towels. She was glowing in that way people do when they're completely, blissfully unaware that their world is about to implode. She picked up her clothes from my bedroom floor, a red dress I'd complimented her on just last Sunday at Mom's birthday dinner. Marcus came out a few minutes later, already dressed, checking his phone. I should get back to the office, he said quietly. Thompson wants the Morrison contract reviewed before 5. Will you tell Sarah you're working late again? Emma asked, and I watched my fiancé nod without hesitation. Probably until 8 or 9. You could come by around 7, tell her you want to grab dinner and talk about final wedding details. They had it all figured out. A system. Emma would console me about Marcus working so much, maybe suggest we order Thai food and watch a movie. She'd probably let me vent about feeling neglected, pat my hand sympathetically, tell me that marriage would change everything for the better. She's been so paranoid lately, Emma said, sitting on my couch to put on her shoes. Last week she asked me if I thought you seemed different. I told her it was just wedding stress. Marcus kissed the top of her head. You're amazing, you know that? I watched them leave through my front window, Emma in her red dress, Marcus in the navy button-down I'd ironed for him that morning. They looked like any normal couple saying goodbye after an afternoon together. Except they'd just destroyed my entire life in my own home. And they were planning to do it again tomorrow. I sat on that couch for 2 hours after they left, staring at my phone and the screenshots that proved my entire life was a lie. Every conversation, every kiss, every moment of happiness from the past 6 months, all of it contaminated by their betrayal. But it was the text that came at 6:23 p.m. that really broke me. Asterisk Emma, hey sis. Just finished up some errands downtown. Want to grab dinner? You seemed stressed about the dress fitting earlier and I thought we could talk through any last-minute wedding worries. Red heart asterisk. I read it 3 times before the full magnitude of their deception hit me. She was already putting their plan into motion. The casual lie, the fake concern, the heart emoji, all of it designed to manipulate me while she was probably still wearing my perfume on her skin. My phone buzzed again. Asterisk Marcus, hey babe, Thompson is being a nightmare about this contract. Going to be stuck here until at least 9. Sorry to miss dinner again. Love you, asterisk. The same lie, delivered with the same practiced ease. I wondered how many times they coordinated these messages. How many nights I'd eaten alone while they were together, believing I was supporting Marcus's career. I was still staring at my phone when it rang. Mom's contact photo filled the screen, the picture from last Christmas where she was wearing the ridiculous reindeer sweater Emma had bought her. Sarah, honey. Emma just called and said you seemed overwhelmed today. Are you doing okay? She's worried the wedding stress is getting to you. Even my mother. Emma had called my mother to reinforce her concerned sister act, probably knowing Mom would check on me and make Emma look even more caring by comparison. I'm fine, Mom. Just tired from work. Well, Emma's on her way over with that Thai place you like. She really loves you, you know. You're lucky to have a sister who cares so much. After Mom hung up, I walked back to my bedroom and stripped the sheets off my bed. Everything went straight into trash bags, the sheets, the pillowcases, even the throw pillows Emma had helped me pick out at HomeGoods 3 months ago. I couldn't bear the thought of sleeping on anything they'd touched. That's when I found it, a small silver earring wedged between my mattress and headboard. Not mine. I'd seen Emma wear these earrings dozens of times, little teardrop-shaped things she'd gotten for her birthday last year. Our birthday, we're twins, born 4 minutes apart. I'd given her the matching necklace. The earring meant this wasn't the first time. They'd been comfortable enough in my bed to be careless, to leave evidence behind. How many times had they been here while I was at work? How many times had I come home to find Emma unexpectedly visiting, claiming she just missed me? I was holding that earring when Emma knocked on my door at 7:15 p.m., right on schedule. Sarah? I brought pad thai and those spring rolls you love. I opened the door and there she was, my sister, my twin, my maid of honor. Holding bags of food and wearing an expression of perfect concern. She'd changed out of the red dress into jeans and a sweater, like she'd spent her afternoon running innocent errands instead of sleeping with my fiancé. You look terrible, she said, stepping inside and immediately moving toward the kitchen like she belonged here. Was the dress fitting that bad? I followed her, watching her unpack containers of food with the same hands that had been all over Marcus just hours ago. She moved around my kitchen with practiced familiarity, grabbing plates from the cabinet, silverware from the drawer. Making herself at home. Emma, I said quietly, still holding her earring in my closed fist. We need to talk. The words hung in the air between us, and I watched Emma's face carefully for any flicker of guilt, any sign that she knew I'd discovered their secret. But her expression remained perfectly composed, concerned sister masquerading as worried maid of honor. Of course we can talk, she said, setting down the container of pad thai and turning to face me fully. That's why I'm here. I could tell something was bothering you when I called earlier. She hadn't called earlier. We hadn't spoken since Sunday at Mom's birthday dinner, where she'd spent 20 minutes helping me fold wedding favors while Marcus grilled burgers in the backyard. The memory of that afternoon, how normal and happy everything had seemed, made my chest ache. When exactly did you call me today? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Emma paused, just for a fraction of a second, but I caught it. This morning, around 11? You were probably busy at work. I left a voicemail. She pulled out her phone, making a show of checking it. Oh, weird. It looks like it didn't go through. You know how spotty service is at the hospital. The lie rolled off her tongue so smoothly it was almost impressive. I wondered how many other conversations we'd had where she'd lied to my face with the same casual confidence. Right, I said, opening my palm to reveal her silver earring. You might want this back. The color drained from Emma's face so quickly I thought she might faint. Her hand flew instinctively to her left ear, where she was indeed missing an earring. The matching one caught the kitchen light as her fingers touched it. Where did you find that? She whispered. Where do you think I found it, Em? She stared at the earring like it was a venomous snake, then slowly raised her eyes to meet mine. For just a moment, I saw a flash of the sister I'd grown up with, the girl who'd once cried for an hour after accidentally stepping on a beetle, who'd held my hand during thunderstorms until we were teenagers. Then her expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. How long have you known? She asked quietly. Since 2:47 this afternoon. When I came home early and heard you in my bed with my fiancé. Emma closed her eyes and leaned against my kitchen counter, suddenly looking exhausted. Sarah, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why my sister and my fiancé have been meeting in hotels for the past 6 months? Can you explain the $847 jewelry purchase on Valentine's Day while I spent the evening alone eating leftover Chinese food? Can you explain why you've been helping me plan a wedding to a man you're in love with? Her eyes snapped open. How did you? Joint checking account, Emma. The one you helped me set up, remember? Turns out Marcus has been using it to fund your little relationship. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. The Heathman Hotel, 17 different times. The Kimpton, 6 times. That little bed and breakfast in McMinnville where you told me you went for a solo retreat last month. Emma's face went through a series of expressions, shock, fear, and then something that looked almost like relief. You don't understand, she said finally. This isn't how we wanted this to happen. Oh, there's a plan for how this was supposed to happen? Please, enlighten me. After the wedding, after your honeymoon, we were going to tell you everything. Marcus was going to ask for a divorce, and we thought maybe enough time would have passed that you could forgive us. I stared at her in disbelief. You thought I'd forgive you for letting me marry a man who's been cheating on me with my own sister? You thought a 2-week honeymoon in Portugal would somehow make this acceptable? We never meant for it to go this far, Emma said, tears starting to form in her eyes. It just happened, Sarah. We tried to fight it, but... Bullshit. The word came out sharper than I'd intended. Nothing about this just happened. You made choices, both of you. Every single day for 6 months, you chose to betray me. Emma wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, smearing her mascara. I love him, Sarah. I know that's not what you want to hear, but I love Marcus more than I've ever loved anyone. And what about loving me? I'm your sister. Your twin. We shared a womb, Emma. Doesn't that mean anything to you? She was crying harder now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her like I had countless times throughout our lives. The woman standing in my kitchen wasn't my sister anymore. She was a stranger who happened to share my DNA. Of course it means something, she sobbed. You mean everything to me. That's why this has been so hard. Hard for you? I interrupted. This has been hard for you? My phone buzzed with a text message. Marcus, right on schedule. Asterisk Marcus, just finishing up the last few pages. Should be home by 9:30. Want me to pick up dinner? Asterisk. I held up the phone so Emma could see the message. He's still lying to me. Right now, even after you know that I know, he's still lying. Emma looked at the text and fresh tears spilled down her cheeks. Sarah, please. Get out. What? Get out of my house. Take your food, take your lies, and get out. Sarah, we need to figure out what we're going to do about the wedding. Asterisk we asterisk don't need to figure out anything. You lost the right to have a say in my life the moment you decided to sleep with my fiancé. Emma stood there for a moment, looking lost and broken, and I felt a tiny flicker of the old protective instinct I'd always had toward her. She'd been born 4 minutes after me, and I'd spent our entire childhood feeling responsible for taking care of her. But that flicker died as quickly as it had appeared. The wedding is in 13 days, she whispered. I know exactly how many days it is, Emma. I've been counting down to what I thought would be the happiest day of my life. She picked up her purse with shaking hands, leaving the takeout containers on my counter. At the door, she turned back one more time. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did it anyway. After she left, I sat in my kitchen surrounded by the smell of pad thai and spring rolls, holding her earring and staring at my phone. Marcus would be here in 2 hours, expecting to find his loving fiancé waiting for him. Instead, he was going to find someone he'd never met before. Someone who knew exactly who he really was. I spent the next hour methodically going through every corner of my apartment, looking for more evidence of their betrayal. In the bathroom, I found a second toothbrush hidden behind my contact solution, electric blue, Marcus's favorite color, but not the one he kept here officially. This one was tucked away like a guilty secret. The guest bedroom yielded Emma's spare phone charger, the expensive one she claimed to have lost last month. I'd even offered to buy her a replacement. Behind my jewelry box, I discovered a torn condom wrapper dated 3 weeks ago, the same night Marcus had told me he wasn't feeling well and slept on the couch. By 8:45 p.m., I had assembled a collection of their carelessness, Emma's earring, the hidden toothbrush, the charger, 2 bobby pins that weren't mine, and a receipt from Victoria's Secret that had fallen behind my dresser. Size 34C, Emma's size, not mine. The date was April 15th, the day after I'd worked a double shift and come home to find Marcus surprisingly chipper despite his supposed headache. My phone buzzed with another text. Asterisk Marcus, Thompson finally called it quits. Heading home now. Love you, can't wait to see you, asterisk. Asterisk Sarah, drive safe. I'll be here, asterisk. The response felt like typing my own death sentence. In 15 minutes, Marcus would walk through that door expecting to find the same naive woman who'd kissed him goodbye that morning. Instead, he'd find someone who knew about the Heathman Hotel, about February 14th, about every lie he'd told for the past 6 months. I arranged their evidence on my coffee table like a prosecutor preparing for trial. Each item told part of their story, the story I'd been too trusting, too busy, too stupidly in love to see. At 9:02 p.m., I heard Marcus's key in the lock. Babe? I'm home. His voice carried that familiar warmth, the tone that had made me fall in love with him 5 years ago in the hospital break room. Sorry, I'm so late. You would not believe what Thompson put me through today. He appeared in the living room doorway, loosening his tie, and stopped short when he saw me sitting on the couch. Something in my posture must have warned him, because his easy smile faltered. Everything okay? You look. His eyes swept over the items on the coffee table, and I watched his face change in real time. The color drained away, his mouth opened slightly, and his hand froze on his tie. Sarah, I can explain. Can you? Because Emma tried that same line 3 hours ago, and it didn't go very well for her. Marcus moved toward me slowly, like I was a dangerous animal that might bolt. You talked to Emma? I talked to Emma. I also talked to our joint checking account, and the Heathman Hotel, and Victoria's Secret. I picked up the receipt, holding it between 2 fingers like something contaminated. Size 34C, Marcus. I'm a 32B. I've been a 32B for the entire 5 years you've known me. He sank into the armchair across from me, his face gray. How long have you known? Since 2:47 this afternoon, when I came home early and found you two in our bed. The word "our" tasted bitter. Tell me something, when you said you loved her today, did you mean it? Marcus flinched like I'd slapped him. You heard that? I heard everything. The timeline for telling me after the wedding, the plan to wait until after the honeymoon, all of it. I leaned forward, studying his face. But I want to hear you say it. Do you love my sister? The silence stretched between us for what felt like hours. Outside, I could hear Mrs. Patterson's dog barking, the sound of traffic on Cedar Street, normal life continuing while mine disintegrated. Yes, he whispered finally. I love her. Those words hit differently than when I'd heard them through the bedroom door. Then, they'd been stolen secrets. Now, they were a confession, delivered to my face by the man who'd proposed to me on Christmas morning 18 months ago. When did it start? Marcus rubbed his hands over his face. October. Your birthday party. My birthday party. The celebration Emma had insisted on throwing for us at her apartment. She decorated everything in gold and navy, our favorite colors, and made that elaborate cake from scratch. I remembered dancing with Marcus in her kitchen while she cleaned dishes, feeling so grateful for my perfect life. She kissed me, Marcus continued, his voice barely audible. You'd gone to bed early because you had that early shift, and Emma and I were cleaning up. She'd been drinking wine, and she just kissed me. And you kissed her back. Not at first. But then. He looked up at me with eyes full of guilt and something that might have been pleading. Sarah, I tried to stay away from her. We both did. But every time we saw each other at family dinners, at wedding planning sessions, the feelings just got stronger. I thought about all the family gatherings since October. Thanksgiving, where Emma had volunteered to help Marcus carve the turkey. Christmas, where she'd given him that expensive cologne I couldn't afford. New Year's Eve, when I'd fallen asleep on Mom's couch and woken up to find them talking quietly by the fireplace. All those moments I'd interpreted as my sister being kind to my fiancé. They'd been falling in love right in front of me, and I'd been too trusting to see it. How many times? I asked, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside my chest. How many times have you been together? Marcus shifted uncomfortably in the chair, avoiding my eyes. Sarah, does it really matter? It matters to me. How many times did you have sex with my sister while I was planning our wedding? The bluntness of the question made him wince. I don't know. I didn't keep count. Guess. Maybe 20 times? 25? He looked up at me desperately. But it wasn't just about sex, Sarah. We tried to fight it, but we kept finding reasons to see each other. The wedding planning, family dinners. The engagement party, I said suddenly, the memory hitting me like a physical blow. Last month at the country club. You disappeared for 40 minutes during the cocktail hour. Marcus's silence was answer enough. Jesus Christ, Marcus. Our engagement party? While I was in the bathroom fixing my dress, you were somewhere in that building screwing my maid of honor? It was the coat check room, he whispered. And we didn't plan it, it just. Stop. I held up my hand. Stop saying it just happened. Nothing about this just happened. You made a choice to betray me at our own engagement party, where my grandmother gave that speech about how proud she was to see me so happy. I stood up and walked to the window, needing distance from him. Outside, the evening was settling into that perfect Portland twilight that Marcus and I used to watch together from the same spot. How many times had we stood here planning our future while he was secretly planning his exit? The weekend in Seattle, I continued, pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. 2 months ago, when you said you needed to visit your college roommate. Emma told me she was going to a yoga retreat in Bellingham. Sarah. You went together, didn't you? While I worked double shifts to cover for Jessica's maternity leave, you and Emma spent the weekend playing house in Seattle. Marcus stood up, moving toward me, but I stepped away. Don't touch me. Don't ever touch me again. We stayed at the Four Seasons, he admitted quietly. Emma booked it under her name. We told ourselves it would be the last time, that we'd end it after that weekend and focus on your happiness. But you didn't end it. No. We didn't. I turned to face him fully, studying the man I'd loved for 5 years. He looked smaller somehow, diminished by his confessions. The fitness tracker you bought me for Christmas. The one that tracks my work schedule and sends notifications to your phone when I leave the hospital. Understanding dawned in his eyes. You think I used it to know when you weren't home? Didn't you? The silence stretched long enough to confirm what I already knew. They'd turned my own gift into a tool for their betrayal. Every early shift, every late night at the hospital, every time I'd texted Marcus that I was staying over to help with an emergency, they'd used my dedication to my patients against me. The wedding dress, I said, another realization hitting. Emma insisted on coming to every fitting, said she wanted to make sure everything was perfect. But really, she wanted to see me in the dress I'd wear to marry the man she was sleeping with. She hated those fittings, Marcus said quietly. She'd come home crying after every one. Come home, the phrase hung in the air between us like a toxic cloud. Come home where, exactly? Marcus realized his mistake immediately. I didn't mean. Where has my sister been coming home to, Marcus? He sank back into the chair, his face in his hands. She's been staying at my apartment. Just on weekends, when you're working. She has some of her things there. The room spun around me. It wasn't just an affair. They'd been living together, playing house while I planned a wedding that was nothing more than an inconvenient obstacle to them. How long has she had things at your place? Since January. 4 months. For 4 months, Emma had been keeping clothes and toiletries at my fiancé's apartment while helping me address wedding invitations at my kitchen table. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Asterisk mom, Emma called me crying but won't tell me what's wrong. She said something about the wedding being ruined. What happened, honey, asterisk. I showed the message to Marcus. What do you think I should tell her? Marcus stared at my phone screen, his face going even paler. Sarah, please don't involve our parents yet. Can we just? Our parents? I interrupted. They stopped being our parents the moment you decided to fuck my sister for 6 months. I typed back to mom, asterisk everything's fine. Just some last minute wedding stress. Emma's being dramatic, asterisk. The lie came surprisingly easily. But I wasn't protecting Emma or Marcus, I was buying myself time. Time to figure out exactly how I wanted this to play out. Thank you, Marcus breathed, relief flooding his voice. Don't thank me. I'm not doing this for you. I sat back down, deliberately choosing the spot farthest from him. I'm doing it because I need to decide how I want to destroy both of your lives, and I'd prefer to do it strategically rather than in a panic. The relief vanished from his face. What do you mean? I mean that in 12 days, we have a wedding. A wedding that cost $37,000, most of which is non-refundable. A wedding where 127 people are planning to celebrate what they think is the happiest day of my life. I picked up Emma's earring again, rolling it between my fingers. Those people include your parents, who flew in early from Phoenix. My grandmother, who's been telling everyone at her bridge club about her granddaughter's perfect love story. My coworkers, who've been covering my shifts so I could have time for wedding preparations. Marcus shifted uncomfortably. We can call it off. We'll say it was mutual, that we realized we weren't right for each other. We? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. There is no we anymore, Marcus. There's you, there's Emma, and there's me. 3 separate people with 3 very different problems. My phone rang. Emma's name on the screen. I showed it to Marcus before answering on speaker. Sarah, please, we need to talk. We already talked, Emma. You said you loved him more than anyone. That seemed pretty definitive. I didn't mean it like that. I love you too, you're my sister. I was your sister. Now I'm just someone whose life you decided to demolish for your own entertainment. Marcus started to say something, but I held up my hand to silence him. Where are you right now, Em? A pause. At home. Which home? Your apartment, or Marcus's place where you've been keeping your things since January. Another pause, longer this time. Marcus's, she whispered. Good. Stay there. Both of you figure out whatever living arrangement makes you happy, because after Saturday, it won't be my problem anymore. I hung up before she could respond. Marcus stared at me. Saturday? The wedding's not until. The wedding is next Saturday, Marcus. Which gives me exactly 12 days to decide whether I want to quietly cancel everything and let you two ride off into the sunset, or whether I want to give our 127 guests a reception they'll never forget. What do you mean? I pulled up the vendor contacts on my phone, the photographer, the videographer, the DJ who'd promised me he could handle anything. Did you know that the slideshow Emma and I prepared for the reception includes photos from your phone? She asked you to send her your favorites of us so she could surprise me with a retrospective of our relationship. The color drained from Marcus's face. Sarah, you wouldn't. Wouldn't I? You spent 6 months lying to my face while my sister helped plan every detail of a wedding that was apparently just foreplay to you. Emma stood in bridal shops with me, helped me choose flowers, addressed invitations to celebrate a marriage she was actively sabotaging. You really think I'm going to protect either of you now? Think about your family. Your parents, your grandmother. I am thinking about them. I'm thinking about how they deserve to know who you really are before you completely disappear from their lives. I stood up again, pacing to the kitchen where the takeout containers still sat untouched. Or maybe I'll do nothing. Maybe I'll just let the wedding happen exactly as planned. Let you stand at that altar knowing what I know, wondering when I'm going to detonate everything. Marcus followed me to the kitchen. Sarah, please. I know you're angry. Angry? I spun around to face him. Marcus, angry is what I felt when you left dishes in the sink. This isn't anger. This is something else entirely, something I don't even have a name for yet. What do you want? What can we do to fix this? I looked at him standing in my kitchen, wearing the shirt I'd ironed that morning, asking what he could do to fix destroying my entire life with my own sister. Get out, I said quietly. Sarah. Get out of my apartment, get out of my life, and take my sister with you. You two deserve each other. After Marcus left, I sat in my empty apartment surrounded by the wreckage of my life and made a decision that surprised even me. I wasn't going to cancel the wedding. I was going to make it unforgettable. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 2 years. Instead of my usual 6 a.m. shift at the hospital, I was sitting in a coffee shop at 8:30 a.m. with my laptop, researching private investigators. Not because I needed more evidence, I had plenty, but because I needed to know everything. By 10 a.m., I'd hired Rebecca Martinez from Cascade Investigations. She had 20 years of experience, excellent Yelp reviews, and most importantly, she could have a full report ready by Friday. When I transferred the $2,400 retainer fee, it felt like the most empowering purchase I'd ever made. I need documentation of every hotel visit, every restaurant, every lie, I told Rebecca over the phone. Phone records, credit card statements, everything that proves this wasn't just some recent mistake. Honey, Rebecca said, her voice gentle but professional, are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes ignorance really is bliss. Bliss is what got me into this situation. I want the truth, all of it. By noon, I was at David's bridal, standing in my wedding dress while Mrs. Chen, the seamstress, made final alterations. The dress was perfect, ivory silk with delicate beadwork that caught the light. Emma had helped me choose it, declared it absolutely stunning while knowing she was sleeping with the man I'd wear it for. You look radiant, dear, Mrs. Chen said around a mouthful of pins. Just glowing. That's how every bride should look. I studied myself in the three-way mirror. I did look different, but it wasn't happiness. It was something sharper, more dangerous. The woman staring back at me had purpose. My phone buzzed with a text from our wedding coordinator, Jessica. Asterisk Jessica, final headcount confirmation needed by end of day today. Catering needs to finalize portions. Still 127 guests, asterisk. Asterisk Sarah, yes, 127. Make sure the bar is fully stocked. It's going to be quite a party, asterisk. Asterisk Jessica, love the enthusiasm. Everything's going to be perfect, asterisk. Perfect. That word had lost all meaning. At 2 p.m., I was at the venue, Riverside Gardens, walking through the space where I'd promised to commit my life to someone who'd been betraying me for months. The ceremony site overlooked the Willamette River, with white chairs arranged in neat rows facing a flower-draped arbor. It really was beautiful. The photographer wants to confirm the family shot list, Jessica said, consulting her tablet. Your sister Emma is still the maid of honor, correct? Oh yes, I said, imagining Emma in her champagne-colored bridesmaid dress, standing beside me as I destroyed both their lives in front of everyone they'd ever loved. Emma will definitely be part of all the special moments. That evening, I sat in my apartment working on what I'd started thinking of as the presentation. Emma and I had already prepared a slideshow for the reception, a sweet retrospective of Marcus's and my relationship set to music. All I had to do was make a few additions. The photos Marcus had sent to Emma's phone were particularly interesting. Pictures of us from our early days together, our first vacation, last Christmas morning, all sent to my sister with timestamps showing he'd shared them while lying to me about working late. But the real treasure was in the metadata Rebecca had already started uncovering. GPS data showing Marcus's phone at Emma's apartment when he told me he was at client dinners. Credit card receipts for 2 people at restaurants during my overnight shifts. Hotel charges that coincided perfectly with my work schedule. My phone rang. Mom again. Sarah, I'm worried about Emma. She won't return my calls, and when I drove by her apartment today, her car wasn't there. Do you know where she is? I almost told her the truth right then. Almost said, she's living with my fiancé, Mom. Your daughter has been systematically destroying my life for 6 months while pretending to plan my wedding. Instead, I said, she's probably just stressed about the wedding. You know how Emma gets when she's overwhelmed. Well, make sure she calls me. I want to confirm what time she needs to be at the salon Saturday morning for hair and makeup. Hair and makeup. In 5 days, Emma would sit in a salon chair getting beautiful for my wedding, knowing she'd spent the week living with my fiancé. The audacity was almost impressive. I'll make sure she calls, Mom. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and continued building my masterpiece. Every lie, every betrayal, every moment they'd stolen from me, it was all going into Saturday's presentation. 127 people were expecting to celebrate love and commitment. They were going to get a different kind of show entirely. The private investigator's report arrived Thursday morning via encrypted email, 2 days ahead of schedule. I opened it at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had gone cold an hour ago, my hands surprisingly steady as I scrolled through Rebecca Martinez's meticulous documentation. 43 pages of evidence. Hotel receipts, restaurant charges, GPS tracking data, even ATM withdrawals that painted a picture so comprehensive it took my breath away. They hadn't just been having an affair, they'd been living an entirely parallel life. The timeline was devastating in its thoroughness. October 15th, first hotel charge at the Heathman, the day after my birthday party. October 22nd, dinner for 2 at Lou Pigeon, while I worked a double shift and Marcus claimed to have food poisoning. November 8th, a weekend getaway to Cannon Beach that Marcus had disguised as a work retreat while Emma told our parents she was visiting her college friend in Seattle. But it was the jewelry store receipts that made me physically nauseous. Not just the $847 Valentine's Day purchase I'd already discovered, but 3 additional transactions. A $1,200 tennis bracelet in December, the same style I'd admired at Nordstrom and hinted about for Christmas. Instead, Marcus had given me a gift card to Target and told me money was tight because of wedding expenses. Emma had been wearing that bracelet at Mom's birthday dinner last month. When I'd complimented it, she'd laughed and said she'd treated herself after getting a bonus at work. My phone rang. Jessica, our wedding coordinator, her voice bright with professional enthusiasm. Sarah. 2 days out and everything's falling into place beautifully. I just need to confirm a few final details. The string quartet will start at 4 p.m., ceremony at 4:30, cocktail hour immediately following, then dinner and dancing at 7. The slideshow presentation is scheduled for 8:15, right after the toasts but before the cake cutting. Perfect timing for maximum impact. Perfect, I agreed, making notes in the margins of Rebecca's report. And the photographer will capture everything? Oh yes, David's team will document every moment. The videographer too, you'll have the most comprehensive wedding footage imaginable. This day will be preserved forever. Forever. I wondered if Jessica would still sound so enthusiastic if she knew what kind of preservation I had in mind. One tiny hiccup though, Jessica continued. Emma called this morning asking if she could review the slideshow one more time before Saturday. Something about wanting to make sure the music transitions are perfect. I told her you had the final version, but she seemed really insistent. Emma wanted to review the slideshow. Of course she did. My sister, who'd spent 6 months orchestrating the destruction of my life, was now worried about music transitions. Tell Emma the slideshow is handled, I said, watching a couple walk past my window holding hands, completely oblivious to how easily love could be weaponized. She's done enough already. Will do. Oh, and Marcus stopped by the venue yesterday evening. He seemed nervous, but all grooms get jittery right before the big day. He was asking about seating arrangements, specifically where your immediate family would be positioned during the reception. Such a thoughtful guy, making sure everyone has the perfect view. Marcus had been scouting escape routes. The man who'd spent half a year lying to my face was now concerned about sight lines because he knew, somewhere in his guilty conscience, that Saturday wasn't going to go according to his plan. Marcus is very detail-oriented, I said. He likes to be prepared for every possibility. After Jessica hung up, I returned to Rebecca's report. The final section contained phone records that read like a manual for systematic betrayal. Text message timestamps showing Emma and Marcus coordinating their lies in real time. Phone calls that lasted hours while I slept between shifts. Even worse, a series of messages from just 2 weeks ago, after they knew I'd discovered them, where they discussed damage control and whether they should come clean before Saturday. Emma had argued for telling me everything immediately. Marcus had convinced her to wait, saying they needed time to figure out the least hurtful approach. The least hurtful approach to destroying someone's life. They'd actually strategized about the most considerate way to demolish my world. But the final page of Rebecca's report contained something I hadn't expected, financial records showing Marcus had been apartment hunting. Not for us, for him and Emma. He'd put down a deposit on a 2-bedroom place in the Pearl District just 3 days before I discovered them. The lease was set to begin November 1st, exactly 2 weeks after what was supposed to be our honeymoon. They'd had an exit strategy all along. The wedding, the marriage, the honeymoon in Portugal, all of it had been scheduled around their convenience. I was supposed to play the happy bride for 2 weeks while they prepared to transition into their real life together. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, Sarah, please call me. We need to discuss Saturday. I can't be your maid of honor knowing what I know now. It's not fair to you, I stared at that message for a full 5 minutes. Even now, Emma was making this about her comfort, her guilt, her need to feel better about destroying my life. She wanted to discuss Saturday like we were negotiating a business deal instead of dealing with the wreckage of our relationship. I typed back, you've been my maid of honor for 6 months while sleeping with my fiancé. Saturday is just one more day. See you at the salon at 9 a.m. for hair and makeup, Her response came immediately, Sarah, I can't do this anymore. You should have thought about that in October. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Marcus. Sarah, Emma's hysterical. She can't handle being part of the wedding. We need to call this off. We're not calling anything off, I said, surprised by how calm I sounded. You two made your choices. Now you get to live with the consequences. What exactly are you planning? I looked at Rebecca's report spread across my kitchen table, 43 pages of evidence that would destroy both their reputations permanently. I'm planning to get married, Marcus. Just like we always talked about. A day we'll never forget. The silence stretched long enough that I thought he might have hung up. I'll transfer the venue deposit back to your account, he said finally. Don't you dare. That money is mine, the wedding is mine, and Saturday is going to be exactly what I want it to be. I hung up before he could respond. 48 hours until the most expensive revenge in Portland history. Friday morning arrived with the kind of perfect autumn weather that made Portland postcards. I woke up at 5 a.m. without an alarm, my body thrumming with an energy I hadn't felt since residency. Today was prep day. Tomorrow was execution. I was reviewing my slideshow one final time when my phone rang. An unknown number with a 503 area code. Is this Sarah Chen? The voice was older, female, uncertain. Yes, this is Sarah. This is Margaret Sullivan, Marcus's mother. I'm calling because Marcus called me last night and said some very troubling things about the wedding. My blood turned to ice. Marcus had talked to his parents. After everything, after I'd specifically warned him about involving families, he'd run crying to Mommy about his consequences. What kind of troubling things, Mrs. Sullivan? He said there might not be a wedding tomorrow. That there had been some kind of misunderstanding, and you were upset about something involving Emma. Margaret's voice carried the careful tone of someone trying to extract information without seeming intrusive. His father and I flew in from Phoenix 2 days ago. We spent $800 on flights and hotel rooms, and frankly, I'm confused about what's happening. $800. Marcus had put his parents through the expense and travel, knowing full well that he'd been living with my sister for months. The casual cruelty of it made my jaw clench. There's no misunderstanding, Mrs. Sullivan. There's been some stress, but all weddings have that. Marcus is probably just nervous. Well, that's a relief. He sounded so strange on the phone, almost like he was expecting something terrible to happen. She paused, and I could hear the genuine affection in her voice. You know, Sarah, in the 3 years since Marcus introduced us to you, Richard and I have come to think of you as the daughter we never had. Marcus is our only child, and seeing him so happy with you has been such a joy. The daughter they never had. This sweet woman had spent 3 years loving me, including me in holiday cards, asking about my work at the hospital, bragging to her friends about her future daughter-in-law's medical career. Tomorrow she was going to discover that her son had been systematically betraying the woman she'd welcomed into their family. That means everything to me, I said, and realized I meant it. You and Mr. Sullivan have been wonderful to me. We'll see you tomorrow then? The ceremony is at 4:30? Yes, Mrs. Sullivan. You'll definitely see me tomorrow at 4:30. After she hung up, I sat staring at my phone, feeling the first real crack in my resolve. Margaret and Richard Sullivan were innocent casualties in this war. They'd traveled across the country to celebrate what they thought was their son finding happiness. Instead, they were going to watch him get publicly humiliated in front of 127 people. But that crack sealed over quickly when I thought about all the innocent casualties Marcus and Emma had created. My grandmother, who'd been telling her bridge club about my perfect romance. My parents, who'd been so proud of both their daughters finding love. My coworkers, who'd covered extra shifts so I could have time for wedding planning. Everyone had been lied to. Everyone deserved the truth. At 11 a.m., I drove to the venue for the final walkthrough. Riverside Gardens looked like something from a magazine, white chairs perfectly arranged, flowers that cost more than my car payment, tables set with china that gleamed in the morning light. Jessica greeted me with a clipboard and her signature enthusiasm. Sarah. You look incredible. That pre-wedding glow is real. She consulted her notes. The string quartet just finished their sound check, the photographer's team is setting up, and catering is prepping in the kitchen. Everything's ahead of schedule. I walked through the space where tomorrow my life would change forever, but probably not in the way anyone expected. The archway where Marcus would stand, waiting for his bride. The head table where Emma would sit as my maid of honor. The dance floor where we were supposed to have our first dance as husband and wife. The AV system is ready for your slideshow, Jessica continued. David tested it this morning, crystal clear picture quality, perfect sound. Your presentation is going to be beautiful. Beautiful wasn't the word I'd use, but it was definitely going to be memorable. Has anyone else been by today? I asked. Marcus or Emma? Emma stopped by around 9 a.m. She seemed really anxious, kept asking about timeline details and whether there was any way to delay the slideshow portion of the evening. I told her everything was locked in, vendors confirmed, schedule printed, programs at the printer. Jessica lowered her voice conspiratorially. Between you and me, she looked terrible. Really pale and shaky. Maid of honor nerves, I guess. Emma was scared. Good. She should be. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca Martinez, asterisk final surveillance photos uploaded to secure folder. Package delivered to venue as requested. Good luck tomorrow, asterisk. The package. In addition to her investigation report, Rebecca had provided one last service, high-resolution prints of every piece of evidence, professionally mounted and ready for display. They were now locked in Jessica's office, waiting for tomorrow's reveal. Oh, that reminds me, Jessica said, checking her phone. Your sister called about hair and makeup timing. She wants to know if she can come later, maybe 10 instead of 9? Even now, Emma was looking for ways to minimize her exposure, to spend less time sitting next to me while getting beautiful for my destruction. Tell her 9 a.m. sharp, I said. I want plenty of time for photos. This is going to be a day we remember for the rest of our lives. The salon Saturday morning felt like a stage set for a play where only I knew the real script. Emma arrived at exactly 9 a.m., her face pale and drawn, wearing oversized sunglasses despite the overcast Portland sky. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Sarah, she said quietly as we settled into adjacent chairs, we really need to talk before. Good morning, ladies, chirped Melissa, our stylist, drowning out whatever confession Emma was about to attempt. Big day today. I'm thinking elegant updo for the bride, and something complimentary for the maid of honor. We want you both looking absolutely stunning. I watched Emma's reflection in the mirror as Melissa began working on my hair. My sister kept opening her mouth like she wanted to say something, then closing it again when other people walked within earshot. The salon was busy, 3 other weddings happening today, bridesmaids chattering excitedly about receptions and honeymoons. You know, said Janet, the woman getting highlights in the chair next to Emma, my daughter's getting married next month, and she's been so stressed about everything being perfect. But I keep telling her, at the end of the day, it's about love, right? That's all that matters. Emma made a choking sound that she tried to cover with a cough. Absolutely, I said, meeting Emma's eyes in the mirror. It's definitely about showing people who you really are. By 10:30, my hair was perfect, an intricate updo that had taken 2 years of Pinterest boards to design. Emma's was simpler but elegant, swept to one side with delicate braiding. We looked like sisters again, like the twins who'd shared everything until 6 months ago. Makeup time, announced Rebecca, the esthetician. Bride first, then we'll make sure everyone's color palette coordinates perfectly. As Rebecca applied my foundation, Emma finally found her moment. Sarah, she whispered, leaning close while Rebecca mixed eyeshadow colors. I can't do this. I've been throwing up all morning. I can't stand next to you today knowing what I know. What you know? I kept my voice equally low. You mean what you did? I'm going to tell everyone the truth before the ceremony starts. I can't let you marry him. I grabbed her wrist, my grip tight enough to leave marks. If you say one word, one single word, before I'm ready, I will destroy you in ways that make today look like mercy. Emma's eyes widened. She'd never heard me speak like that before. Neither had I. Rebecca continued working on my makeup, oblivious to the threat I'd just delivered to my sister. You have such beautiful bone structure, she said, applying highlighter to my cheekbones. This is going to photograph gorgeously. By noon, we were both camera ready. Emma looked beautiful and terrified. I looked radiant and dangerous. The photos from today would be studied for years by people trying to understand how everything went so wrong. My phone buzzed with a text from Marcus, *, please don't do this. My parents flew in from Phoenix. Think about all the innocent people who will be hurt, *. I showed the message to Emma, whose face went even paler. Sarah, your parents will survive learning who their son really is. The question is whether you will *. He's right about innocent people getting hurt, Emma whispered as we gathered our things to leave. You're absolutely right, I said, slipping my phone into my purse. Someone should have thought about that back in October. We drove to the venue in separate cars, me in my Honda, Emma in her Subaru that had been parked at Marcus's apartment building every weekend for 4 months. I watched her in my rearview mirror, probably calling Marcus to report that I hadn't backed down. 3.5 hours until showtime. The venue was bustling with controlled chaos when we arrived at 1 p.m. Florists making final adjustments, catering staff prepping cocktail stations, the photographer's assistant testing light meters in every corner. It looked exactly like what everyone expected, a beautiful wedding about to begin. Sarah. Jessica rushed over with her tablet, radiating the manic energy of a coordinator 3 hours from showtime. You look absolutely breathtaking. The photographer wants to start with some getting ready shots in the bridal suite, then family photos at 2:30, and wedding party photos at 3:15. I nodded, watching Marcus's groomsmen arrive in the parking lot. His best man Jake, his college roommate David, his cousin Michael from Seattle. Normal guys preparing for what they thought would be a normal celebration, having no idea they were about to witness the most expensive public execution in Portland wedding history. Where's Marcus? I asked casually. Already here, getting ready in the back room. He asked specifically that you two not cross paths until the ceremony, something about wanting the first look to be special. Jessica smiled. He's such a romantic. A romantic. The man currently hiding in the venue's prep room because he was terrified of facing me was being called romantic. I wondered what Jessica would call him in 3 hours. Emma grabbed my arm as we headed toward the bridal suite. Sarah, I can't breathe. I literally cannot catch my breath. That's probably guilt, I said, adjusting the train of my dress. I hear it has physical symptoms. The bridal suite was a flurry of activity. My mom, Marcus's mother Margaret, my grandmother, and 3 bridesmaids who had no idea they were accessories to the crime Emma had committed. Everyone was taking photos, adjusting flowers, chattering about how perfect everything looked. Emma, honey, you look pale, my mother said, pressing the back of her hand to Emma's forehead. Are you feeling all right? Just nervous, Emma managed, though she was visibly shaking now. Maid of honor jitters, laughed Marcus's mother. I remember feeling the same way at my sister's wedding. So much responsibility, wanting everything to go perfectly for the bride. The irony was so thick I could taste it. Margaret Sullivan, praising Emma for her dedication to my happiness while having no idea that Emma had been systematically destroying it for months. My phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca Martinez, * backup copies of everything uploaded to 3 separate cloud accounts. Whatever happens today, the evidence is preserved *. Rebecca understood what today really was. Not a wedding, but a reckoning. At 2:45, the photographer gathered us for family photos. My parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles arranged in perfect groups, everyone smiling and celebrating what they thought was the happiest day of my life. Emma stood next to me in every shot, her champagne-colored bridesmaid dress complementing my ivory gown beautifully. These are going to be gorgeous, the photographer said, checking his camera settings. The light is absolutely perfect today. Perfect light for perfect documentation of the most imperfect day imaginable. During a break between photo groupings, my grandmother pulled me aside. At 86, she was still sharp as a tack, and she was looking at me with concern. Sarah, dear, something feels off today. You look beautiful, but there's something in your eyes I've never seen before. She glanced toward Emma, who was standing alone by the window, staring out at the parking lot. And Emma looks like she's about to faint. Are you girls having some kind of fight? My grandmother had raised 6 children and buried a husband of 50 years. She knew what family tension looked like, even when everyone else was too caught up in wedding excitement to notice. Everything's fine, Grandma. Just wedding day nerves. She studied my face for a long moment. You know, in my day, if something was wrong, we dealt with it head-on. None of this pretending everything's perfect when it's not. What if dealing with it head-on means ruining everyone's day? Honey, my grandmother said, taking my hands in her weathered ones, if someone's day gets ruined by the truth, then it probably needed ruining. At 3:30, Jessica appeared in the doorway of the bridal suite, clipboard in hand and showtime energy radiating from every pore. Ladies, it's time. The ceremony begins in exactly 1 hour. Guests were arriving as we moved from the bridal suite to the holding area behind the ceremony space. Through the window, I could see cars filling the parking lot, my coworkers from the hospital, Marcus's law firm colleagues, college friends who'd driven in from Seattle and San Francisco. 127 people who'd cleared their Saturday afternoon to celebrate what they believed was true love. 15 minutes until processional, Jessica announced, adjusting Emma's bouquet for the third time. Emma's hands were shaking so badly she could barely hold the flowers steady. That's when I saw him through the window, Marcus, pacing behind the ceremonial arbor in his charcoal gray tuxedo. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way he kept checking his watch like he was counting down to his own execution. His best man Jake was talking to him, probably delivering some standard pre-ceremony pep talk about wedding day nerves being normal. If only Jake knew what his friend had really been doing for the past 6 months. My mother appeared beside me, radiant in her navy mother of the bride dress. Honey, you look absolutely luminous. I've never seen you more beautiful. She glanced toward Emma, who was now sitting in a chair with her head between her knees. Though I'm worried about your sister. She's been acting strange all week. Mom, I said carefully, if you found out something terrible about someone you loved, would you want to know the truth even if it ruined a special day? She looked at me with surprise. That's an odd question for your wedding day, Sarah. Just hypothetically. My mother considered this, watching Emma through the window as she tried to compose herself. I suppose it would depend on how terrible the truth was. Some secrets are worth keeping to preserve people's happiness. Others. She paused, studying my face more carefully. Others eat away at you until there's nothing left but poison. Before I could respond, my phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. When I opened it, my blood turned to ice. Asterisk unknown, this is David Chen, Emma's coworker at the marketing firm. I'm at your wedding, sitting in row 7. I need to tell you that Emma called out sick every weekend for the past 4 months, claiming family emergencies. As her supervisor, I'm required to document these absences. She was definitely not where she told your family she was asterisk. Emma's boss. Sitting in my ceremony right now, unknowingly providing the final piece of evidence I didn't even know I needed. Emma had been lying to everyone, not just me and our parents, but her employer. Using fake family emergencies to cover her weekends with Marcus. I screenshotted David's message and added it to the folder on my phone labeled Slideshow Extras. 10 minutes. Jessica called out, her voice carrying that manic edge of a coordinator in the final stretch. Emma, we need you standing please. Sarah, your father's waiting to escort you. Emma struggled to her feet, gripping the back of her chair for support. Her carefully applied makeup was holding up, but I could see the panic in her eyes. Sarah, please. I'm begging you. Don't do this. Do what, exactly? Get married? Celebrate with our friends and family? Give a memorable toast? I smiled at her, and I knew it wasn't a kind expression. What could you possibly be worried about? The string quartet began playing the processional music, Pachelbel's Canon in D, the piece Emma and I had chosen together while sitting at my kitchen table 3 months ago. She'd insisted it was perfect, romantic, and timeless. Now she looked like it was her funeral march. Showtime, ladies. Jessica's voice carried from the doorway. Through the window, I could see our guests rising to their feet, 127 people turning toward the back of the ceremony space in anticipation. Margaret Sullivan was dabbing her eyes with a tissue, already emotional about her son's big moment. My grandmother was adjusting her hearing aid to make sure she didn't miss a word of the vows. Marcus took his position at the altar, Jake beside him, both of them looking toward the back of the aisle where I would appear in exactly 8 minutes. From this distance, Marcus looked every inch the perfect groom, handsome, nervous, ready to pledge his life to the woman he loved. Too bad that woman was standing next to me holding a bouquet and looking like she might vomit on her champagne-colored shoes. Emma goes first, Jessica instructed, then the bride with her father. Remember, slow and steady, smile for the cameras. Emma looked at me one final time, her eyes pleading. It's not too late to stop this. You're absolutely right, I said, adjusting my veil one last time. It's been too late since October 15th. The music swelled, and Emma began her walk down the aisle to take her place as my maid of honor in the destruction of both our lives. I watched Emma walk down that aisle like she was heading to her own execution, each step perfectly timed to the music we'd chosen together. From my position at the back, I could see every face in the crowd, friends, family, co-workers, all of them beaming with joy as my sister took her place at the altar. Margaret Sullivan was crying happy tears. My grandmother was smiling so wide her face looked like it might crack. None of them knew they were watching the opening act of the most expensive revenge in Portland history. Your turn, sweetheart, my father whispered, offering his arm. At 62, Dad still got emotional at Hallmark commercials, and today his eyes were already glassy. I can't believe my little girl is getting married. The processional music shifted to Here Comes the Bride, and suddenly 127 people were on their feet, turning toward me with phones raised and tissues ready. I took my father's arm and began the longest walk of my life. Step by step, I moved toward Marcus, who was standing at the altar looking genuinely moved by the sight of me in my wedding dress. His eyes were bright, his smile real, and for just a moment I remembered why I'd fallen in love with him 5 years ago in that hospital break room. Then I saw Emma beside him, gripping her bouquet like a life preserver, and the memory turned to ash. She's beautiful, I heard someone whisper from the third row. Perfect couple, someone else murmured. If they only knew. Halfway down the aisle, my phone buzzed in the small clutch I was carrying. I couldn't check it, but the timing felt like a sign. Probably Rebecca Martinez with some final piece of evidence, or maybe Marcus sending one last desperate plea. As we approached the altar, I caught sight of David Chen from Emma's marketing firm, sitting exactly where he'd said row 7, aisle seat. He gave me a small wave, completely unaware that his text about Emma's fake sick days had just become part of tonight's entertainment. My father kissed my cheek and placed my hand in Marcus's. Take care of her, Dad said, his voice thick with emotion. Marcus squeezed my fingers, and I felt him slip something small into my palm. A piece of paper, folded tiny. When our eyes met, his were desperate, pleading. He'd written me a note. At our own wedding ceremony, the man who'd been lying to me for 6 months had written me a note. "We are gathered here today," began Pastor Williams, his voice carrying across the garden, "to celebrate the union of Sarah Elizabeth Chen and Marcus James Sullivan in holy matrimony." I opened my hand slightly and caught a glimpse of Marcus's handwriting. Asterisk, "Please don't destroy us both. I'll do anything." Asterisk. Anything. The man who'd refused to cancel the wedding yesterday was now offering to do anything. I wondered what had changed in the last 18 hours to make him so desperate. Pastor Williams continued his opening remarks while I stood there holding my fiancé's confession, my sister trembling beside me, and 127 innocent people witnessing what they thought was the beginning of my happily ever after. "If anyone has a reason why these two should not be joined in marriage," Pastor Williams intoned, "speak now or forever hold your peace." The silence that followed felt electric. Emma's bouquet was shaking so violently that petals were falling onto her shoes. Marcus's hand was sweating against mine. 3 rows back, my mother was wiping away tears of joy. In exactly 4 hours, every person in this garden would know exactly why Marcus and I should not be joined in marriage. But first, we had vows to exchange. "Do you, Sarah Elizabeth Chen, take Marcus James Sullivan to be your lawfully wedded husband?" Pastor Williams's voice seemed to echo across the garden as I stared into Marcus's eyes. Behind the desperate hope I saw there, I caught a glimpse of something else: relief. He actually thought I was going to go through with it. That I'd stand here, say I do, and pretend the last 6 months hadn't happened. "I do," I said clearly, and watched that relief flood his entire face. The crowd erupted in gentle applause. My grandmother dabbed her eyes. Margaret Sullivan clutched her husband's arm in joy. Even Emma seemed to exhale slightly, probably thinking I'd chosen preservation over truth. We exchanged rings, the platinum bands we'd chosen together at Tiffany 8 months ago, back when I thought Marcus loved only me. His hands were steady now as he slipped my ring into place, whispering "I love you" just loud enough for the front row to hear. "By the power vested in me by the state of Oregon," Pastor Williams announced, "I now pronounce you husband and wife. Marcus, you may kiss your bride." The kiss was soft, brief, and photographed by 17 different people. As we turned to face our guests as Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, the cheering was thunderous. Rice flew through the air despite Jessica's strict birdseed-only policy. Everyone was on their feet, celebrating what they believed was the perfect ending to a perfect love story. If only they knew it was just the intermission. The cocktail hour passed in a blur of congratulations and champagne. I smiled for photos, accepted hugs from college friends, and listened to toasts about true love conquering all. Marcus never left my side, playing the devoted husband with Academy Award precision. "You're glowing," my Aunt Carol gushed, pressing a glass of champagne into my hand. "Marriage suits you already." At 7 p.m., Jessica herded everyone into the reception hall for dinner. The room looked like something from Pinterest: crystal chandeliers, ivory linens, centerpieces that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Our wedding cake stood 4 tiers tall on a table decorated with Emma's careful flower arrangements. Marcus and I took our seats at the head table, Emma to my right, Jake to Marcus's left. The irony of the seating arrangement wasn't lost on me, my husband and his mistress positioned on either side of me like bookends of betrayal. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jessica announced over the sound system, "please welcome Mr. and Mrs. Marcus Sullivan." More applause, more photos, more celebration of a marriage that was about to become the most expensive annulment in Oregon history. Dinner was served, the herb-crusted salmon Emma had helped me select, paired with wines that Marcus had insisted on tasting personally. Everything was perfect, exactly as we planned during those months when I thought we meant Marcus and me, not Marcus and Emma. At 8:10, Jessica approached our table with her tablet. "Time for toasts and a slideshow. Are you ready for your big presentation?" Emma's fork clattered onto her plate. "Sarah, please." "I'm ready," I said, standing and smoothing my dress. "Let's give everyone a show they'll never forget." As Jessica dimmed the lights and the first slide appeared on the projection screen, a photo of Marcus and me from our early days together, I felt something I hadn't experienced in 6 months. Peace. Because finally, after 127 lies, 43 hotel receipts, and one devastating October afternoon, everyone was about to learn exactly who they'd been celebrating. "Good evening, everyone," I said, taking the microphone Jessica handed me. "Thank you all for being here to witness this very special day. Before we cut the cake, I wanted to share some memories with you, a little retrospective of Marcus's and my relationship." The screen showed us hiking in the Columbia River Gorge, laughing at a restaurant, opening Christmas presents. Normal couple photos that told a normal love story. For exactly 30 seconds. Then the hotel receipts appeared,